Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is always difficult to moderate a panel after Lawrence because, this guy is so active and he has think of so many ideas that I can never, comparable to him. But I think today we have a very good topic. It's about GBA. I think this is the Greater Bay Area initiative is something that the central government really want to do. And it is so important to Hong Kong. So I would say that Belt and Road is something I would rather say 1 or 2 years ago. But this Greater Bay Area concept is so important. And I know that there are some good achievements that you would like to hear today. So I hope this is maybe not as interesting as his first panel, but I think the practicality, the usefulness of this one, and able to hear some latest news from the regulator is something that you would be leaving Hong Kong with all these hopes and opportunities. And I hope you'll go back to your board meetings and then maybe send 10,000 people to Hong Kong because in future there's so much opportunity. Honestly, there will be opening up this big market to all of you. Now, may I give you some basic information, I think sort of recap of what we have in the Bay Area. Some very simple. Basically, I think everyone knows GBA is about Hong Kong, Macau, plus 9 cities in Guangdong. So we have an area of 56 square kilometers, 56,000 square kilometers. So what does that mean? It means 51 times the size of Hong Kong and a population of over 70 million. So why central government is so concerned or so putting so much resources in GBA is because it's a key initiative move for the implementation of innovation-driven development and commitment to reform and opening up of this area. The objectives are to further deepen cooperation, fully leverage the composite advantage of the three places, facilitate in-depth integration within the region with a view to developing international first-class area, ideal for what? For living, for working, traveling, and doing business. Early this year, I'm going to mention another quick initiative. Early this year, the State Council released new guidelines to implement the National Healthy China 2030 initiative to promote people's health. With a focus on disease prevention and health promotion, the guideline proposed 15 special campaigns to intervene in health influence factor, protect full life cycle health, and prevent and control major disease. An action plan for 2019 to 2030 encompasses the objective and tasks of each campaign with specific targets, including decreasing the health effect of secondhand smoking, reducing obesity, increasing overall physical activity, and preventing chronic diseases. The plan drives a strategic shift from treatment to prevention. It's timely and important. So in a year from now to 2030, exciting changes are expected to happen in Hong Kong. So Hong Kong ensure we should make our best contribution using our competitive advantage and maximize the business opportunity to deliver mutual benefit growth in the Bay Area. To me, I'm the legislative member for representing insurance industry for next year would be 12 years. 3 terms is very long. So I really encourage any people that would be interested in their position to come forward to the election that would happen in, I guess, in September next year. But to me, I think one key message I would like to give all of you is that when we want to develop something, we should be developing something not only for Hong Kong, not only benefit Hong Kong. It's really important. We must think of something that can benefit China. It has to be a mutual benefit. If we only think about how we can do more business and only talking about Hong Kong, I think you will never get the right thing done. There will never be cross-border business. We must show to the central government, Hong Kong insurance industry is so important in able to bring values to China. instead of only build value in Hong Kong. To be honest to you, if you don't mind, I can talk a little bit about politics. I think Hong Kong, the position of Hong Kong is the same. If we want to get, another extension for another 50 years, the only way to me is to show to the central government the value of Hong Kong, instead of showing them Hong Kong is a threat to them. So the result will be totally different. So to me, I'm very disappointed, very angry, because the young people are different to have a thinking that if they disrupt Hong Kong, they destroy Hong Kong, or even are able to threat central government to give them more, something that they already have, but they think they don't have. They think that is the tactic that's right. To me, it's totally wrong, because that would only give more and more people in central government would think that would be damaging to the one country system if we don't have people in Hong Kong only threatening the security of China. It is really, really sad. I think most of the people, especially commercial people, all understand that. But unfortunately, that message cannot be get across to the young people. Sorry, I take up too much of the time, but I think there's something that I really want to say every one of you, so that I think every one of you should use your influence in Hong Kong to let the Hong Kong people know how we can get another renewal of another 50 years, which I really like to have to be as a present to my kids and also to the young generation as well. So let's fight for that. Huh? Okay, so let's get back to business. So as I mentioned just now, we have this GBA, and then we have Healthy China 2030. So what are the roles that the insurance may play in serving the need of this more than 70 million people? So maybe I would like to ask Karen first, because Swiss Re is very strong in getting the background information. So maybe you are the best guy to start with this. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. I think the GBA is definitely a very exciting project, and probably is likely to be the major growth driver for the Chinese economy in the coming years. We look at this GBA from two perspectives. One is actually, despite the very strong potential of the GBA, the area has still a lot of vulnerability, meaning that, that there are still a lot of protection gaps in the GBA area, and this actually represents a big opportunity for insurance companies in Hong Kong or in mainland China. For example, in terms of natural catastrophe, we noted that every year Guangdong is affected by typhoon, and the insurance coverage for that is only 5%, meaning that insurers are only paying 5% of the economic losses from natural catastrophes in Guangdong area. Now, this 95% protection gap is huge, and we can think of different ways where we can help Guangdong and the region around to better protect against this natural catastrophe. And this is not just about natural catastrophes. There are also other protection gaps, like in the health insurance area. In China, we estimated that there is a $50 billion health protection gap just in the Guangdong province. In Hong Kong, it's $23 billion. So there is also a huge protection gap in terms of health care. With the aging population of Guangdong and Hong Kong, necessarily going forward, there will be also some protection gap in terms of long-term care, for example. So how are we going to support the Greater Bay Area in its future development by putting into place a robust risk management scheme? I think the previous panel talked a lot about risk management. And I think our role in supporting the Greater Bay Area is to look at risk transfer, risk finance, risk mitigation, in order to support the region to build a robust risk management framework that can underpin the sustainable growth of the GBA area. The second perspective we look at it is more not so much from the status quo perspective, but looking forward what GBA will be in 10 years or so. For example, there are lots about innovation. There are lots about talk about smart cities. There are lots talk about the building of a next generation logistics system in the GBA area. This will all need insurance to play a role in order to support this. For example, in terms of ensuring that there are enough protection for cyber risks, or in terms of logistics sector, how we can help with the data security in those new platforms. I think there are a lot of things we can think about in terms of how we can also make insurance a bigger player in supporting the future development of the GBA area. So I would like to say that we have a lot of protection gaps that are existent in the GBA area that needs our attention. But at the same time, with the developments of the GBA area, there will be new risks coming up, and we also have to have a forward-looking view in order to support the growth of GBA.
Okay, thank you. Mike, would you like to comment? I mean, Clarence has been coming from the technical side. So from a business side, what are your comments on these two major initiatives?
Well, and I think it ties back to your opening comment. So the, I kid friends, I travel like a lot of you do. And if I want to be left alone on my flight over, I look at the person next to them when they ask what I do, and I tell them I sell insurance, and they will grab the safety magazine or something and put their head in it for 12 and a half hours on the flight, right? If I say that we're involved in health and financial inclusion, you're going to talk to them for the entire flight because they're interested in that. And bringing it back down to the consumer, I think, matters. In the Greater Bay Area initiative, and these go to social tensions and trends, right? The more effective we are at this, the better we are. 34%, as wealthy as the Greater Bay Area is, and as clearly as wealthy as the statistics suggest it'll be, in the very near future, per capita income-wise, you have a range of experiences there in individual households. 34% of the medical payments in the area are paid out of pocket. Okay, disproportionately from cash. So to our bank colleagues, these are in checking accounts earning nothing, right, in the current environment. That money's not invested in the real economy. That money can often create bankruptcies for individual households. It's a disruptive amount. And it's a fairly simply solved problem by our industry. It's one of the things we do best. So I think there's a model to stay with the consumer in the GBA and their demands and their needs. There was a conversation in the previous panel about Wealth Connect. So we have products from savings, retirement, health and protection, a variety of education funding for our clients here and Crossborder. You cannot have a Wealth Connect platform without Insurance Connect platform because you can't protect the wealth of an average household with $50,000 of income without de-risking that wealth. So the two are completely interconnected. There is no, so those sorts of work streams have to stay in parallel. I think the compliance and some of the concerns that were raised earlier already exist in the industry. If it's sold to a bank channel, if it's sold to agents, there are rules. We do business in both sides of the bay. There are rules that apply that are very, very similar, and I think that was mentioned earlier. So I think this is going to be about short-term executing with the consumer's preferences in mind and aiming at solving some of these short-term social tensions that the tools are already in our toolkit to address.
Okay. Professor, your comments, please.
Well, thank you. Well, we talk about the Insurance Connect and Wealth Connect. I think this is a very shorthand way of saying how we can actually help with the GBA and Hong Kong, financial market integration and so on. Of course, I agree with you, Kin-por. That is, when we are asking for, when we're advocating policy like this, we have to make it really helpful, very beneficial to both Hong Kong as well as to the mainland China. And so the question, when we talk about the connectivity, how is a picture that we're imagining? Is it the right picture? In other words, is it a connectivity that we are really building? And in Hong Kong, in some sector, there's some doubts about whether we are actually, what kind of connectivity we're talking about between Hong Kong and the mainland and the GBA. And I have to, I want to come up with some kind of analogy, like Lawrence Lee earlier, talking about the Kowloon Canton Railroad. What is a symbol of connectivity, between Hong Kong and the GBA? Now, I find that today that the connectivity is maybe already in the high-speed railway, but I think we have more than that. We have a lot of people and people connectivity. So when we talk about the wealth management or the Insurance Connect, it's a people-to-people connectivity that we are building on. And on that score, I want to just highlight maybe one example. I have two affiliations. One is Hong Kong UST. The other one is I'm involved in a FinTech company. For the HKU, for Hong Kong University of Science and Technology, I don't know whether you know, we are building a campus in Guangzhou that is bigger than the Hong Kong campus. Yes. And we're taking as many students as they are in Hong Kong. And this campus is not a sub-campus. It's really going to be a huge campus with the same kind of quality and international standing as in Hong Kong. This is amazing. Something you would not have imagined a few years ago, if not for the GBA initiative. Because the GBA initiative is really about bridging Hong Kong and mainland. So by really having Hong Kong to help China, build up the higher education sector in the GBA. So that's one example. The other example, of course, I'm involved in a FinTech company, and we have more employers in Shenzhen than in Hong Kong, and we are very interested in, developing a GBA FinTech platform to serve this region. Now, this is really the connectivity that we're talking about. Of course, under the new initiatives announced by the Chief Executive Carrie Lam, there are a lot of beneficial policies to facilitate people traveling between the two places. So it is a people-to-people connectivity, and it is the kind of these are the arguments we should make in order to talk about the wealth management and insurance connect. And I think for insurance, it's particularly very important because it is helping the people. So when we talk about the Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area, one of the key strengths of Hong Kong is our medical sector. So we already have some insurance company coming out with policy to help people to access Hong Kong medical sector. This is one good example how we can start from something really tangible, something really beneficial to the people, and build on. So I think we can elaborate more later on, but I think this is the people to people is what we really want to go after.
Yeah. So it's really good to hear from you that your UST is going to have a bigger campus in China, because we have a problem in Hong Kong now. Many people want to send their kid not to Hong Kong universities, but want to send them overseas. Now we have a choice; they can go back to GBA. It is really relieving for my grandchildren, So, Carol, yes, you are so important. I mean, I would like to really thank Carol for doing a lot of things for the Hong Kong insurance company. She has been already, really understand what's going on, and I hope, of course, under the leadership of Moses and Cayman, they have been. I just now, I don't know. I talked to some very highly important people and tell him the difference between the regulation in Hong Kong and somewhere else. So Hong Kong is more like a car where you have a brake, which a regulation, but you also have an accelerator so that we can make sure that Hong Kong insurance is moving on. So I think this is, I don't know whether, but for me, I think this is, we part of the insurance law in Hong Kong, and one of the major things that we bring in is the regulators also responsible for development of the industry, not only regulate, but also development. That's where the strike a balance is so important. So Carol, can you tell us what are the opportunities?
Sure. Thank you, KP. I mean, it's always good, to have a moderator that can speak a lot from my mind already. So what I need to do is only to supplement, right? From a regulator's point of view, I want to emphasize 2 points for the GBA initiatives, and also 2 brief area that insurance can do in terms of grabbing the GBA initiatives opportunities. Well, we talk about a lot about this complementary strength. With the Hong Kong, Macau, and the 9 Guangdong cities, they are of varying strength, and I mean, riding on all this complementary strength of each 11 cities, we are looking for an impact. Is not only 1 + 1 = 2, it's greater than the sum of the parts. And then how does this impact come from? Casey just mentioned about the people flow, right? I fully agree. What is connectivity? We are talking about connectivity in the morning. Well, connectivity means a flow of people, flow of goods, flow of capital, and flow of information. So we are looking at, the GBA area will be developed into a new economic system on par with the international standards, and of course providing strong support to the Belt and Road, as what we mentioned earlier in the earlier sessions. And then how insurance can play within these GBA opportunities. Insurance is an important and integral element of the social protection, and also a stabilizer of the real economy. So we can definitely help to build resilience, and also we talked about risk management this morning. And most importantly, when we talk about the people connectivity, is the 1 hour living circle. Allow me to talk about my personal experience. Earlier in November, I did a delegation, industry delegation, to go to Zhuhai and met with my insurance counterparts at CBIRC, Beijing, Guangdong, and Shenzhen. We have a delegation of the Hong Kong insurance industry representatives, as well as the representatives from the mainland China. We left in the morning comfortably after breakfast at 8. And then we used the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macau bridge, and we arrived. We can catch the first meeting 9:30. We have the second meeting. We have a lunch, decent lunch. It's lunch in the canteen of the regulator office. And then we can come back to Hong Kong in my office in Aberdeen before 5. So I report to my CEO, and then I can start reviewing my documents and answering emails, etc. So what I want to say is for business, as well as definitely for life. So it's a one hour living circle. So that is an opportunity that we can, my second point for insurance is not only for, we talk about address the protection gap, but also insurance can to do, in terms of GBA area and opportunities, it can be a healthcare connectivity as well. So maybe I stop here. We definitely later on we can talk a bit more.
Yeah. So we all know that China is benefiting from this. The middle level people are having more and more middle income level people, and we see the income level going up very fast. So so what are the opportunities there? From the insurance perspective, I'm going to again ask Clarence. Can you tell us?
Yeah, I guess in China, there is already a very comprehensive social security system covering some basic medical insurance provision for the majority of the Chinese people. On the other hand, I think this social security or government-sponsored medical insurance scheme has some limitations in terms of the benefits are not necessarily uniform across different cities, provinces, and also there are some exclusions like some foreign drugs or expensive treatments that are not included. But ultimately, I think the major measure is, as Mike said, the out-of-pocket expenses for healthcare in China is still very high, at 34%. Or 35% by some other estimates. And that actually is also quite high by international standard. That means that there is still a need for the populations to get supplementary or complementary medical insurance to help them to better prepare for those medical expenses, in particular what we call the catastrophic medical expenses. Now, one other evidence, I think if you look at the developments of private medical insurance in China, they have gone through a number of stages. The first generation of medical insurance are those that are closely tied or linked to the Social Security, and it is kind of a supplementary to those. But recently, over the last 2 years, we have been seeing a very strong growth in private medical insurance in terms of the so-called million-dollar medical schemes. I think this is a kind of a testament that there is a very strong need for additional medical protection in China. And it is the challenge for, I think, for the insurance industry to think of the right product that can meet the needs of the consumers in China. Whether we follow the path of these million-dollar medical schemes, being that it is high sum insured, high deductible, low premium, or we add other value-added services to make it more attractive and useful to the Chinese consumers. I think this is the step that we need to take in better understanding the needs of consumers, and then devise the suitable solutions in order to meet those requirements. But it is quite clear to us that there is a strong need for additional medical insurance protection.
Okay, Mike, would you comment on this one as well? What are the opportunities for us arising of this higher income level people, more and more of this kind of people in China? So what are the opportunities?
Well, I think one of the key factors you got to think about was some of the the household you're talking about is, for the most part, it's first-time wealth, right? So, which is, I think, lost on a lot of Western markets. So there's a desire to protect, right, and preserve as much as there is to grow. It's, you know, very hard-earned wealth, and people want to. So you see the desire to diversify. I don't have a friend here or in China that isn't aware of increasing, you know, lifespans. So suddenly, if their definition of retirement was, you know, 10 or 15 years, they realize that's woefully short, and Social Security and these infrastructures were never designed for Chinese people to live to be 100. You know, there'll be 3.5 million people in the world over 100, you know, mid-century, right? So there's entirely new problems coming with that, funding retirement, funding medical care, et cetera. So I think there's a couple of key elements that you see in the Greater Bay Area that are common in other markets we're in around the world. You have to customize to what the client is concerned about. So that could be microinsurance for someone who has very little money. You know, we've got a project, a dinghy insurance vehicle in a Southeast Asian market because they're concerned about that. It's the very high deductible, high face amount, you know, policy just referenced, if that's the concern someone has. It's not trying to define as an industry or as a regulator exactly what the product should look like for the consumer, but building systems and regulatory and business models that allow them to be customized. And if you allow them to be customized, you're going to get far more of society buying what they want and paying for what they need versus you telling them what they have to have and charging them what that costs. Very different equation. So, you know, we have markets. One of our U.S. products, for example, a core savings product, is 2,400 different combinations and 160 different investment options. And that sounds insanely complicated. Actually, software, they answer a few questions and it drives down to a series of very obvious answers. But the client goes away with something customized and it feels like they got what they needed and didn't pay for anything more. That lens is global. People don't want to pay for things that they don't need. And I think it's up to the industry to be flexible in how we deliver the health. And the last one I would say on the health piece, there is no client we have, no consumer in any market that doesn't have two stages in their mind about a health concern. So if I feel sick, I'm comfortable going to my local doctor. If he says something really horrible, I'm going to go talk to somebody who I think is more qualified than him, right? Even though I have dinner with them, right? There's every single market in the world, people perceive medical care or access to medical care as there's one place even better than where I normally go. And that can be into Hong Kong, that can be into Shanghai, whatever it is, public to private, KL to Singapore. Everywhere we go, you hear this equation. And again, the products and services have to follow that need because it's a real need to the consumer. And the GBA, this is one that's embedded, I think, in people moving back and forth. They have a preference on where that care is delivered.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's time for us to hear the comments from the floor. So we are going to have the first live polling questions. Please use your device to give your answers. Yeah? No, I think they should project here. Oh, it's already there. Okay, I can't see the it's here. Sorry. So I think you have 30 seconds to give your comments, please. It's basically which of the following best contributes to enhancing the connectivity of health protection by Hong Kong insurers in the GBA. So whether it's value-added facilitation services, innovative cross-border, cross-boundary medical insurance products, private-public healthcare connectivity, or digital presence. Okay, we have the results already. It is, I think this is a very logical reply, because if you don't have cross-border, permission to do, what's the point of thinking about the other values? So I think the first thing is to get the things done. Is how can we have a breakthrough so that we have the cross-border business going on. So I guess all of you understand that in Hong Kong, we have been talking about the after-sales service centers in GBA. So judging on what I see from IA, or maybe he didn't tell me the secret, but to me, I think probably health insurance is the first product that is able for us to be sort of providing the first insurance service in China. So this is a great opportunity. So I think this message alone is so much valuable to you that it's worth coming to Hong Kong already. So so this is a very good response of the market. Maybe we can talk about this later, but I think the first thing that we would like to discuss is to how can the medical insurers contribute to enhance the connectivity in the Bay Area. So I think if we don't have connectivity, then there's no value in having this cross-border business. So can I this time I ask Mike first, if you mind talking about how can we enhance the connectivity in the Bay Area? I mean, what can the medical insurers do to enhance the connectivity?
So I think it's back to my last comments. I guess as one who travels extensively, right, if you said to me, does our medical policy work in 14 markets in Africa? I'm sorry, in Asia, 8 markets in Africa, the U.S., the U.K. It's a very good question, right? You'd be a little nervous giving the card to the hospital as you went into the ER. We should be able to solve medical payment across the Bay Area quite simply. And so a consumer shouldn't need to have a Hong Kong-based and a mainland-based policy for simple medical protection. The financial, the payment technology is there. That to me feels like one of the easiest steps, not that it's easy, but one of the easier steps in GBA. So a single policy provides protection for a consumer regardless of the market they're sick. That to me would be a very logical starting point. And we do see consumers buying in both markets. And again, that's wasteful of their dollar, their money.
Okay. Clarence?
Yeah, I guess following Mike's comment, I think it is important to consumers that they can have access to some seamlessly connected insurance product that can help their life, whether they are working across the border or they are retiring in the Guangdong or the GBA area. And in practice, I think there are a number of things that we need to think about, like whether insurance product so in Guangdong or in GBA area can cover the claims for medical treatment in Hong Kong, whether the currencies that are being used is only Hong Kong dollar or renminbi, or the consumer don't even have to think about this. They don't need to care about what the currency is. I mean, that can be handled everything in the back end. So a lot of these things that we can improve and probably make use of technology to do that will help to make this product kind of more suitable to consumers in both locations, such that they can help the connectivity of people.
Carol, any comment on this one?
Sure. In fact, the result of the poll reflect, in fact, the central government's development, the outline development plans initiatives as well. If you remember this morning, Chairman and also our CE talked about the outline development plan for GBA announced in February earlier this year. And one of the 5 initiatives relating to insurance is to promote the jointly, the regulators to work together jointly to develop the innovative cross-border medical insurance products. So the poll reflect, and also our wish as well. When we're looking at customized medical products for GBA residents, I think, in fact, the poll result also, there's about 18% of the audience that think about value-added services are important. I do agree that with Karen's just mentioned, when we talk with the mainland insurers and also the mainland regulators, our counterparts, when we talk about the pain points of the GBA residents in terms of taking out medical insurance, basically they cover, that is the hospital service, the range of the drugs being provided, and also the claims processing time, the convenience of getting, the claims payment, be it they take our policy from Hong Kong, but they cannot take the claims payment in the other GBA cities. So I would say, insurers, when we are thinking of developing the customized GBA products, you have to consider these value-added services. For example, the connecting with the hospital services in GBA area, or allowing a greater choice of drugs and medication, and also like streamlined claims payment, and also in effect premium payment as well, processed using the digital platform. So these are the areas that our insurers, when we are thinking of grabbing the opportunity, we should take into account.
Okay. Now I have another question is about how do we really, it's about the implementation of this cross-border business. So I think in Hong Kong, the relationship between Hong Kong and China is that we are one country, two system. So they are different in systems. So as a regulator, Carol, can you tell us what you have been doing or how you're working with the regulators in China to make this happen?
Sure. In fact, this morning we talked about the GBA initiatives. Regulators are working on some proposals, namely the setup. In fact, KP just mentioned the setup of Insurance Service Center and also the Insurance Connect. This morning we talked a lot about and leveraging and learning from the other three Connect, two Connect, and one to come is the Wealth Connect, right? So in this regard, the IA has been liaising closely with the mainland authorities, including the CBIRC, our counterparts, the insurance regulator, as well as SAFE, the State Administration of Foreign Exchange, to look at this cross-border capital flow. But as you know, and also we mentioned about the differences in the regulatory requirement and also the legal background requirements. So all these technical details need to be carefully sought out and worked out to ensure these compliance with the relevant laws and regulations. And also for us as regulator, we must ensure a proper management of risk. But at the same time, IA is also exploring with the CBIRC on the regulatory issues, that the delineation of the respective regulatory duties arising from these proposals in future. We are also facilitating our industry to talk direct with the regulators, expressing our pain points and their pain points, and then to come together to work out sort of something, including a customized GBA products, to work for the best of the GBA residents. We have been started discussion on this innovative medical insurance products proposals, but if you ask me, I have been experienced in launching new initiatives in the past few years, but what would be the successful factors if we start to work on this customized medical products for the GBA area? I would leverage on my previous successful experience of launching the qualified deferred annuity products within 368 days. So what are the critical success factors? That is the collaboration between local governments. For here, GBA, if applying to this GBA initiatives, is the local or provincial or the governments of various Hong Kong, Guangdong province, and also various cities governments, and the local regulators as well as the local industry. So we are talking about a great number of stakeholders. What I would consider is we need to work together. But Clarence mentioned some point about this. It's Mike mentioned about the need of the customer, of the GBA residents. So we have to look at what are the actual needs of the customers of the GBA residents and what are the pain points. And then regulators all work together to address the pain points and to see how the regulation or laws can be studied and researched to how to facilitate the process.
Yeah, I think Carol bring out a very important thing is how can we understand the need of the GBA area? They may be different from Hong Kong. So on this point, is there, can I also get a comment from Professor on how we can understand the perspective of the people on medical insurance?
Yeah, I've been listening to the pitch that we make, right? How great we can do in insurance and so on. Like Wealth Management Connect, Insurance Connect, these are B2C business. Whereas the Hong Kong, the Stock Connect and Bond Connect is B2B. B2B is a lot easier to do because you're dealing with some big guys. Now we're talking about B2C. So how do we actually reach out to the consumers, one and every one of them in the Greater Bay Area? Now, go back to my one example. I work for VLab. We have a big China business and Hong Kong business, right? The way that we approach the two businesses are very different because the Chinese consumers are very different. If you show them the same product, the same feature, the same app, that we use in Hong Kong, in China they won't be interested. So it's a very different kind of habit and different kind of ecosystem they're in. So in a way, when we are trying to really sell our services, sell our products in the Greater Bay Area, number one, we have to really be local. We've got to be local, be mainland, using the same kind of marketing as well as design, product design to reach out to them. I think right now the Chinese consumers, in my opinion, will have some idea that in Hong Kong we are so good in doing certain things. For example, wealth management, obviously, life insurance, for example, because they're buying in life insurance policy in Hong Kong already. And to some extent, medical insurance, because it's not because of medical insurance per se, but the access to Hong Kong medical services is very key. Now, certain things that we are very good at already, but in order to really make it really a great sale in China, that's the pain points that Carol mentioned we should really talk about. But of course, our interest is not just selling these things. We have to be, if we want to be more than just a life insurance product or medical product, if we want to be more served and providing more needs for the Greater Bay Area, I think we got to go local. We got to really study the consumers very well. We got to bring our products to the same level and same ecosystem that they are in. So that's the task that we are facing when we are going to make this a real connect between Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area.
Clarence?
Yeah, I fully agree with Professor that we need to be closer to the consumers, better understand what their needs are. And in fact, I think there are still some perception gaps between consumers in China or Guangdong and Hong Kong, for example, in terms of expectation of a price for a medical insurance product. Typically, the price expectation in China or even in the rich Guangdong area is much lower than a similar product in Hong Kong. How do we bridge this perception gap? I think is important. There is also differences in the perception of product, what they expect from a product. I think we noted that, for example, in mainland China, there is a standard definition on what is a critical illness, but there is no such standard definition or official definition in Hong Kong. So how to bridge this product gap, I think, is another important step that we will need to take. But ultimately, consumers in China or in Guangdong are not homogeneous. There are many different segments of the markets, many different pockets of consumers that have different perception, needs, and so on. If we just take a very simple dimension of income or wealth, the lower income consumers are very much driven by value for money in their choice of insurance product. But if we go up the ladder of income, we will find that consumers increasingly pay more attention to second opinion, like whether they have access to some overseas drugs or treatment, or even whether they will get the same doctor to take care of their cases every time they visit a hospital. This kind of value-added services will become even more important as the middle-income class become bigger and bigger in mainland China. So when we look at what we can provide to consumers or what they need in the Greater Bay Area, we should also take the perspective that there are different segments and their needs are quite different across these different segments.
Okay, thank you. So now we see the trend of more use of information technology, and also we're talking about FinTech, and also big data to help us to do the business. So I would like to ask how can big data and also technology help for the business? So Professor is probably the best person to ask, because he is the chairman of a virtual bank that would operate in the next few months, right? In the next few months. So how can you help the insurance industry as well, please?
I said yes, but my regulator is here, so subject to the regulator. Okay. I think, of course, I think this is really belaboring the obvious point. I mean, FinTech is a solution. It's got to be a solution, because when we talk about insurance, in fact, I think among all the financial services, I think insurance is the best case to make about using technology and data, because it is a data about individuals' lifestyle and so on that actually can really determine the pricing, and also it's a data about the person who is visiting doctors and clinics and so on, any kind of mitigation and so on, that you can actually so you make an insurance more like a lifestyle partner as well as an insurer. I think insurance is one of the most great example of FinTech. So if I shift the question a little bit differently, I would say I think that's one of the pitch we should make incessantly to the regulators in both Hong Kong side and the mainland side, how we can really promote the use of technology, insurance tech in this case, really to bring about financial service integration in the Greater Bay Area. There's no better case of using technology, in my opinion, than insurance. So I think that's a good for the insurance, helping the customers better with the data, and also helping developing our insure tech and FinTech in Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area.
Yeah, Clarence, any comments?
Yeah, I fully agree that InsurTech is a very hot topic nowadays in insurance. I think the part on data is particularly important because as far as we know, there are quite a lot of available data in the Greater Bay Area where we can assess and help us to better price our product or find better solutions to different risks, whether this is about mobility, whether it is about health, or whether it is about smart city. So I think the key going forward is to better understand where to apply those technology innovation or InsurTech or FinTech. Because consumers, from the consumer's perspective, their preferences is not necessarily only on digitalization of the purchase journey. We know that consumers are looking at different touch points, different ways that they are being approached in different parts of their purchase journey. So whether they would like to get the information online, whether they would like to do the underwriting online, or whether they would like to have the advices from professional agents and so on. So better understand the different needs, or what we call the omni-channel requirements of consumers, I think is a very important step in allowing us to know where to apply those technology or insights we can get from FinTech. So I think this is very important.
Yeah, I would like to say something according to my personal experience. I was able to visit Alibaba's headquarters in Hangzhou. And if you look at the way they are using this big data, you'll be very scared, because this really total change how we do business. They're able to use social media to analyze every person's credibility. So they already, when you do any kind of business, they're already able to place a pricing for a certain business automatically. So I really don't know how can the insurance company do some things like that, because they already have all this data, maybe over half the population in China. So once you have that kind of size of business, then you are very accurate. And they try to, rate people by, of course, internally, by what they collect from the social media. They already know this guy is a good risk or bad risk. So it is very scary, to be honest. If you are not able to tap into that kind of big data, I think it's very difficult to do business. Unless your business like medical I think medical products is rather different. But I think if you look at these loan products, and especially, you know, in China, they are able to even check the criminal record of a certain person. So they are all done by computer. Within a seconds, they already know how you can, whether it's a good candidate to lend money to. I don't know whether you have heard stories about people having no money in their wallet, and when they have no money, they just lend like $100, and then they pay back the $100 tomorrow. So they don't even need the banking at all. So that's what happened in China. So if that also the same trend come to Hong Kong, then we'll be living in a quite different world. So I think I think big data is a good thing, but for company like us, where we are used to this traditional business, I really think it's really a big problem and something we need to address. So I think the only solution is probably you need to go when we are definitely going to China. But how are we going to do something different in China, different from what they are doing, all coming from big data? Maybe we are talking about providing personal service, extra flexible products, and something they don't have. As you mentioned rightly, there's something they don't have. Okay, now we have this probably the last one, but also the most important thing is about how can we go further? I mean, in this GBA area. So again, Clarence, can you get us some ideas about this?
I mean, in the video at the beginning, we have seen that the GBA area has a GDP of 1.6 trillion nowadays, and it is going to be 4.6 trillion in 2030. So there is an expectation of very high and strong economic growth in the GBA area going forward. And I think from our insurance perspective, we have to look at the future of GBA being a smart and intelligent region, where there will be increasing connectivity across the 3 jurisdictions, but also amongst the 9 cities in the GBA area. And how can we go forward in achieving this vision is to help, from my perspective, is to help the regions to put in place a robust risk management. I think I go back to my first point, that we need a robust risk management schemes and also a framework that can help the regions to develop in this direction. And that will include not just insurance, risk transfer. I think this is an important part, but we also need to think about adaptation, mitigations, and also in terms of risk responses. So these are all the important ingredients that we are very familiar with, and we can kind of provide this as our services to the GBA area. And I think this is also one of the links of Hong Kong insurers.
Okay, so Carol?
Perhaps before I start sort of concluding how far we can go, can I just add a bit on, just now we talked about this use of big data, right? In the cross-border selling of insurance, be it medical or other insurance. I just want to add that these kind of new technologies like blockchain, data analytics, AI, big data, this will provide a safe and convenient channel for cross-border capital flows and information flows, and also facilitate the collection of this market data for analysis and evaluation. However, I do see there are challenges. Just now you mentioned about, apart from the data privacy, the collection of data and the use of data, and also the cybersecurity, the storage of those data, possible leakage of data. These are also some of the challenges we need to look at. But this is the direction that we need to go. The data and analytics, the big data for medical insurance products, even for other other type of insurance products. So just to add that. Okay, talking about the concluding remarks of this connectivity and how far we can go, right? In fact, the GBA initiative is still a work in progress. We are working very hard. We hope that, with the vision that there will be the technical foundations of what looks to become is one of the powerhouses of the connected global economy. So if we come back to, like, we talk about the customized medical insurance products, so we would hope, we would work further to have more cooperations between insurers and also the hospital groups. Just now I mentioned about this broadening of the range of the drug, area in the GBA area, and that may need to have these kind of discussions maybe with the government, provincial governments, regulators, and the industry. And we even can think of some innovative products, like develop products with retirement benefits, linking with the elderly homes in the GBA areas that also help address the aging population in the free jurisdiction of the GBA areas. So customized medical GBA products not only help to address the medical need, the insurance need of the GBA residents, but also can help to close the protection gap, just Clarence mentioned at the beginning, that exists across the free jurisdiction in the GBA area, and also will help to fulfill the Health China 2030 targets. So again, I mean, IA has been working very hard and will continue to work very hard together with the industry and all the major stakeholders on this initiative.
Okay, maybe it's time for us to take questions from the floor. So please feel free to file in your questions. Before I receive the question, I would like to comment on how far we can go. I think this really a rosary picture for every one of us. Hong Kong Federation of Insurers, represent basically 90% of insurance companies, has set a task force. They have been working extremely hard to consider how we can help the Hong Kong government to expand our role in China. I think the sales support center is number one. Second is the Macro Direct. The third one is going to be Insure Direct that we've been working very hard. There's general insurance, also life insurance. And also, we're actually pushing very hard for another initiative for the insurance company is for any insurance company that have been registered in Hong Kong, they should be entitled to national treatment in China. So what does that mean? That means now you have to have like 5 billion US capital asset before you can apply for a license in China. We are pushing for a local sort of regulatory mutual acceptance. For example, if as I just mentioned, if you set up a general or life company in Hong Kong, then you are able to operate in China without all this capital barrier, just like a local company, like, I don't know, like 200 million RMB. But I have to mention this is our ultimate goal. It is not something that's going to happen in tomorrow. It's something that we would really like to push for. And that is, I think there's a real merger of Greater Bay Area. You can imagine all the insurance company in Hong Kong can have can do business easily in China. That would benefit all the people of China because then you have different expertise, different company all come in Hong Kong. So there'll be really a good example of mutual benefit. So this is something we have actually written to the government, and we are also trying very hard. But of course, we have to rely on our regulators sitting here, Moses, Cayman. I hope you will put this as the top priority for us. Huh? So I didn't see, then I, okay. Sorry, we only have about 2 or 3 minutes, so I have to only choose the most important one. Maybe this one, I hope the panelists can answer. What are the key barriers that need to be tackled in order to realize the potential of GBA? So I think as the insurance company, Mike, you would probably think of some barriers to you, right? That you would like to have to be solved, right?
Yeah, no, I think there's a couple. I mean, there's the data privacy and the consumer views of data. The big data works in mainland China because there's an agreement that the company can have more data than the consumer. That asymmetrical relationship works in that environment, and that there's not a lot of other regulatory environments that allow that uneven of a relationship. Consumers there see it as a currency. Friends see it as a currency there. That's a social policy, and that's a regulatory position that I think needs to be right. Clients moving back and forth on medical, that means you have to allow data to move, very private data to move across jurisdictions. This is an issue for us globally. If clients want to go someplace else for medical care, it's very hard. Often a hospital owns a record and they don't own their records. Those sorts of things, again, sound like an easy solve, but I think are massively complex. And then the biggest one, I think, on retirees has come up a couple of times, which is absolutely key. It is hard to imagine, if you think of the lifespan of a consumer, that you're not going to see people from Hong Kong retiring with their pension savings vehicles and annuity into, the GBA. We need a payment mechanism for that adjusts for currency, even if it's at the last second, converting it to RMB. But I think those are the biggest hurdles. And I'm guessing you guys will have that done this time next year when we're back.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe we can ask the regulator first. Maybe you can give some suggestion on what can be done. About the moving of money from China to Hong Kong. The concept of the Insure Direct is that they can use the certain channel to come to Hong Kong, and then when you make the payment, they go back to China. So there's no concern of outflow of capital. That's what we are working on. So Carol, anything to add?
We are in close discussion with the mainland authorities on this Insurance Connect. Of course, we definitely rely on the idea of the successful story of Bond Connect and the other two connects that just we mentioned this morning, that we are proposing, to have this capital flow within a closed tunnel. I mean, all the regulators it's transparent to them to see this capital in and out. So that is an idea riding on that successful story of the other Stock Connect, Bond Connect issues. But I mean, even resolving that area of the capital flows within, being transparent, there are still a number of issues that we need to resolve, especially for this, the difference in the legal requirements. That is a basic area. But anyway, we are working hard. We are still, pursuing this issue under the CIPR arm, and then we are also proposing different proposed to handle all these obstacles. But if you're talking about this barrier, just mention. In fact, I mentioned this data privacy might share. It's not our own problem. It's a problem, of the global problem. But also cybersecurity as well. I mean, for cross-sector Insurance Connect, definitely if I may think of, we need this digital platform in order for it to be a successful one. So all this we have to take into account before we put it into an action, right?
Okay, now we are overrun, but I want to make my last comment. But before that, I would really like to thank the floor because it's almost full. That shows that our session is not too boring. Huh? So I would like to tell everyone that this is really starting of a great opportunity for Hong Kong, because you can imagine it is really exciting to be able to use the expertise of the insurance industry to serve our mainland. So we have 1.4 billion people, great opportunity, and Hong Kong has I think Hong Kong is in a very good position in that the mainland people really like the insurance system in Hong Kong because we have a good image. We are really reliable in making claims, not saying that the mainland is not reliable, but anyway, they have the certain trust that you can never explain. That is very simple. They just trust the system. And also, there are also other spreading of ways like all this. So I think we still have a huge opportunity. So maybe we should, maybe the regulators should submit to LESCO for approval of a bigger fund so that we can give you more people. Or you can convert the regulatory people to salespeople. So you reduce of people inspecting our insurance agency and all these offices. Put more time on development business. Okay, thank you very much.